Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Drapers Connects. My name is Graham Moran, and I am the Associate Editor here at Drapers. Drapers Connects is our series of webinars, Q&A panels, and discussions that aims to bring together the fashion and retail industry. As well as live webinars such as this, you can access our archive of videos from all our past webinars at drapersonline.com. Today, in partnership with Constructor, we will be discussing how artificial intelligence, AI, I'll just say AI from now on, is powering search and product discovery, as well as a shift from relevance to attractiveness. So, thank you very much to our panel for joining us today. Please, could you introduce yourselves and tell us a little about what you do? Harry, you're at the top of my list, so let's start with you.
Excellent. Afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. So I'm Harry, the Director of Data and Technology at Monica Vinader. My role in the business really sits at the intersection between digital experience, our platform capability, and also making sure we deliver commercial value back to the business through technology and data. For those that don't know Monica Vinader, so we are a British demifying jewellery brand, been around since 2008. We're big on creating everyday luxury, lots about personalisation, and sustainability is a really core value for us. We sell global cross channels, online and store, and online's our biggest channel.
Perfect. Rob, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Carter. I'm the Senior E-commerce Manager at White Stuff. Great to be here. So my role is I'm responsible for the digital marketing and trading of the website. For those not familiar with White Stuff, so we're a UK fashion retailer, predominantly focusing on women's wear and menswear. We operate both online and offline. Offline, we have over 100 stores across the UK. Within our wholesale network, we have over 600 stockists globally. And we also work with a number of concession partners, the largest ones being John Lewis, Next, and M&S. In terms of White Stuff, so over the sort of past 3 years, we've undergone quite a transformation of the brand, which has been really well received, both from returning customers and new customers. And over the last year, we've opened a number of new stores. Some of the key stores are Liverpool One, Gatwick Airport, and in Edinburgh. And then from an online perspective, we underwent quite a big project in summer 2023, where we re-platformed from Intershop over to BigCommerce, and we took a more headless approach to our strategy. And that's proven a really good move. We've got now a much faster site, and a faster way to manage the day-to-day operations. So like product setup, merchandising, new collection page setup, etc. We've seen that kind of speed increase across both desktop and mobile. And the partners we work with, such as Constructor and like Ampliant, just allows me and my team to focus a lot more on optimizing the site faster than we previously could have. So yeah, great to be here and look forward to discussing all the points today.
You will. And last but not least, over to you, Laura. Do you introduce our audience to Constructor?
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. My name is Laura. I'm a customer success manager here at Constructor. My role is to really be the spokesperson for our clients. So I represent their interests and what they want to do, and also vice versa, help them to really achieve their KPIs with Constructor. So basically, I sit in between Rob and Harry, and also what we will talk about later for the AI engines. If you don't know what Constructor is, we are an AI-powered search and product discovery platform. So we are really about personalizing experience and really taking away the manual work. So what Rob said earlier, but also enhancing the experience with the new AI algorithms, for example, attractiveness, which we'll be going to in a little bit, so I don't want to take away too much. But thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. And finally, to our audience, if you are joining us live on this sunny Wednesday, please do ask questions via Zoom's Q&A function, and we'll do our best to get to them throughout. So let's get started. Both White Stuff and Monica Vinader have been on a journey to optimize their product discovery across your digital channels, which we will definitely be going into in much more detail later. But first, to set the scene a little, I wanted to take a step back before all that hard work and all those projects and ask, where were you at before, and what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when it came to things like search and product discovery? Rob, why don't we kick off with you and White Stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest challenge we had previously was just not having anything like automated in place that we could really use to react to on-site customer behavior. We did have quite a manual system in place that wasn't the most intuitive. So rule setting for like merchandising or for like search results was very manual. So for example, like when a new line or a new collection would launch, or say product lines were getting quite low on stock or quite size fragmented, we'd need to go in and make sure we were pushing them higher ourselves across all the different category pages or within the search results pages, or push them lower, as I say, if it was more around stock. So there was a risk to impacting conversion rate if we didn't do that. And we also kind of had a basic search offering. It was relatively basic, and the results would very much be served based on the particular term that the person was searching for, as opposed to the most relevant product, which I'm sure we'll go into later, but serving a much sort of better experience to the customer. So yeah, if I had to summarize, I'd say the biggest challenge was just that sort of manual, less intuitive system that we had in place to give the customer what they were searching for across the site.
Great, thank you, Rob. Harry, what about you? What were some of the challenges or hurdles that you faced at Monica Vinader?
Yeah, I can really relate to everything that Rob's just mentioned, actually. So I definitely won't go and repeat anything that he's just said, but definitely around tooling and the manual side, very relevant to us, particularly as a brand who, we've been very fortunate to be on like a really fun, exciting growth journey, which means you're always feeling lean as a team in terms of resources relative to where you're aspiring to be and how you're trying to operate. So I think because of that, when you have tooling that isn't giving you that rich capability, it relies on more manual processing, and then there's only so much you can do with a small team. So I won't go too much into that. I think the one thing I'd probably build on what Rob mentioned was which is similar, because of the technology and the approach that we had, and the fact we hadn't really maintained or invested in that area for the reasons I've just mentioned. We had a very much like one size fits all approach. So what I mean by that is, we had a global sort order. From a browse perspective, from a search perspective, it was a very simple journey. There was no localizing of search results because it was keyword led, as Rob mentions. And so, yeah, it just wasn't really as personalized and as tailored to the user. So I think that was the only thing I'd add to what has already been said.
Okay. Laura, you work with lots of fashion brands and retailers across the industry in this space. Are there any other issues that you hear a lot? Any problems that people come to you that they really want solving?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can only second or third emphasizing what Rob and Harry said. It's what I hear a lot with the customers that I work with. Absolutely. I think when they come to Constructor or in general, something that I work a lot with my clients, especially when they onboard with us, is we want to take away the manual workload from them, as Harry and Rob said as well. Something that is, to give a little bit more context into multi-region, not only give the personalized experience to different regions, because obviously Germany, UK, US, they all have very different search and browse behavior, the customers that are based in these countries, but moreover, to give really the ability to manage the different languages and the different synonyms. And that's something that we also have where clients say we do need a solution that is really enabling us to take away the manual work, but to have an automated solution for that, because also stepping into a more international world, customers in the US or in the UK might use English language terms, but that differ from the actual product titles because it is in the British English or in the American English, for example, sweater, jumper. These words are also adopted into the German language. So there's really a solution that really is across different sites, across different indexes, as we say. I would say the irrelevant search results is a big key point. It's not really so much that brands are really worried about really showing irrelevant results. It's more just like, or wrong results, but it's really, we want to make sure that whatever we show is actually valid. It actually brings value to the client. And I would also say the no results experience. So one thing that I think that brands are also not leveraging enough, and that is really important, is to ensure that there are automatic personalized fallbacks for no result pages, for example, because I think one of the worst experiences that a customer can have, and also something that is, the studies show that like the accident on a page is extremely high, is when no results are shown. So there are like a couple of things that we usually address, but yeah, these I would say the main points that customers mention.
Lots there that we're going to delve into over the next 45 minutes. So let's start with search optimization specifically. I did a little bit of research before this session, and it's very true. If you look at almost any e-commerce website across all industries, in fact, search bar with its little magnifying glass icon is almost always very prominently placed. Just looking at the panel, for example, on both brands, it's in that perfect top right-hand corner on both your homepage and your PDPs, your product display pages, and for very good reason. Constructor recently carried out a survey of over 6 million shopping searches, and it found that only 24% of shoppers use search. That's less than a quarter of customers use search. However, those that do use search account for 44% of revenue, which is a pretty good number. And for fashion specifically, searchers apparently add to basket at a rate of 37% compared to just 22% for non-searchers. So my question to the panel is, do these stats align with your experiences? And why is search given such a prominent place on your website beyond that's just where everyone puts it? Harry, why don't we start with you?
Questions. And actually, Graham, I think we might buck your trend now, because it was only in the last 18 months we have exposed that search icon, which I can speak to. I think the fact we chose to make that decision to expose, I think, is because firstly, we were aware of what was going on in the industry, of like stats like ones you just mentioned, Constructor, of general trends and intent to search. You know, a consumer wants to find and discover products, and they're so tuned and trained to using that as a mechanism to do so. We felt like we were almost silly not to have that. But what we didn't want to do is be in a position where we expose search and knock back the experience it delivers to the user. And that's why we embarked actually on this area to focus on, and obviously combining with the browse pages as well as the search results, because ultimately a user goes between both lands all the time. It's important to have a consistent, seamless, and optimized journey throughout both. So we made those changes, and we did see usage actually of that icon, for funny enough, double when you expose it to users. And we started to believe more in the results that were being seen. In terms of performance, you mentioned in terms of the over-indexing of conversion and based on usage and traffic through for search versus browse. I think one thing we're very mindful of is not to be drawn in by stats like that from a causation versus correlation standpoint. Like if you think about your customer funnel, it's typically very high intent customers using search anyway, but looking for something specific. Either they're looking for a specific category or for an occasion, but they got that level of intent, or they've already visited the site, they're coming back to try and rediscover something. So I think there's a natural over-index of conversion, which we're very mindful of. But this is why when we embarked on this area, we're quite big on incrementality testing, and we've pushed Constructor extremely hard over the years to make sure we're doing things methodically and actually making decisions so our experience actually overall improves the experience and ultimately delivers value back to the business. I think that basically sums up what I was going to mention on that.
Oh,
I
you're
said I
muted.
wasn't going to do it, and I did it.
You did it.
Rob, what about white stuff? Do those stats compare and contrast with you?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what Harry was saying about the intent. Like, you're always going to see higher intent for people that are coming onto the site and searching because they've already loosely got something in mind as to what they're trying to find or what they're looking for. We did actually do an A/B test to try and make the search that little bit more prominent. And actually, it didn't really increase the engagement too much. So we left it as it was. And that kind of showed to us that, yeah, there are two types of customer. There's the customer that comes on the site, searches, knows what they want. We can serve that. But then there's the other customer, likely more sort of new customer to the business, that will want to have a click around the site and look in the different categories and things like that. And to Harry's point, that's the real focus as well, not to get too obsessed with making sure the search is prominent. Obviously optimize the search, but we need to focus on optimizing the journey across the site as well and the browse pages, and give that customer that's not using search just as good experience, because yeah, they are higher up the funnel. So yeah, I think to summarize, you are going to have higher intent for on-site searchers. Give them the best results, but don't forget about the customers that just don't want to use search. Make sure that experience is just as strong.
Definitely. Laura, what are your thoughts? And given, as both Rob and Harry have mentioned, that there's that search intent, how should more businesses be focusing on that, or as Rob says, balancing that with those that don't want to use search?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I actually want to build up on what Rob and Harry just said. I mean, with the stats you mentioned already, Graham, like 44% of searches make up for the conversion. Actually, the conversion rate is 2.5 times higher than non-searchers. So there really is a very big, promising customer coming to your website and looking for something with a very strong buying signal. Like, the stats are speaking for themselves. However, also what Rob just mentioned, I think in the end of the day, it actually is a win-win situation for everyone, because the searches should not only be seen as strong buying intent and coming to the website and really trying to convert them, but moreover, they should also be, the purchasing signal in general, the behavior on the site should actually be seen as an intelligent engine, because the algorithm just keeps on learning from it. How people are interacting with a site, how people are interacting with specific products. Are they zooming in? Are they zooming out? Like the clickstream data, which we'll get into, I'm sure, in a little bit as well. But basically, having the algorithm really picking up on all of that is helping in other areas as well. So just as Rob mentioned, it's really important to focus on the searches, because the buying signal and the stats, as I said, are speaking for themselves. But in general, the algorithm is really learning from that, from those searches as well, to then optimize into other areas, because at the end of the day, it's learning from browsers, from searchers, from the recommendation interactions. So yeah, in general, I would say it's a very strong customer group or customer segment that should definitely not be ignored. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. We all keep talking about it, and we've not gone into detail on it. So let's go into detail. I want to explore this concept that is seeing a shift from traditional kind of relevance when it comes to search, obviously around keywords and things like that, to this more nuanced approach of attractiveness and products that customers actually might want more than just are relevant to them, and how AI in particular is powering that. So Laura, I know you're a big fan of this shift. Could you tell us a little bit more about it in reality?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go back in history a little bit. So traditionally, and I think Rob and Harry both mentioned the term already,
Great. Now, you mentioned clickstream data. Tell us a little bit more about that and how does that work?
Absolutely. I always like to say, again, I also like to lead with an example, or sometimes I like to visualize it a little bit better. But basically, overall clickstream data is, I would say, one of the most powerful but also unutilized assets in digital e-commerce. And I know this is a very big term, but basically it's the digital trail that records every action a user takes on a site, but without being creepy or anything like that. So imagine you go into a store. I mean, we're in London. Imagine you go to Regent Street, you go somewhere, you go into a store, and a salesperson approaches you and they can then see your interactions and what you're doing. So it's basically exactly that. I'm going into the store. Let's say I'm a searcher. So I say, hi, I'm looking for a white t-shirt, and they show me white t-shirts. And I say, yes, I like this. No, I don't like this. Oh, I'm engaging with this. Actually, I'm now engaging with red t-shirts with white dots on it. Very different story, right? Because my search term was white t-shirt. Whereas I go into a store and I'm a browser. So I say, no, I'm fine. I'm just going to look around, like I'm just browsing. All of these interactions that we see in store, we can then also aggregate and track from a customer behavioral point on the e-commerce side. And that is obviously telling us so much and gives us so much information, or the algorithm so much information to learn from it. So clickstream data really is any action that a user does on a website. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Laura. To the panel, the rest of the panel, in terms of search, what are your thoughts on this relevance versus attractiveness concept, and how are you implementing it, or are you implementing it, particularly around kind of those new indicators that Laura mentions, like past purchases and on-site clicks via clickstream? What impact have you seen from this new approach, let's say? Harry, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Very relatable, I guess, is the short answer. I think for brands such as ours and the sort of search terms we see, more often than not, a search term doesn't have a single answer unless you're a very high intent consumer looking for a specific product. You're talking more generic terms like gold rings, which is a whole category for us. And I actually did it while Laura was talking on my own website, and there was 150 results. So how do you actually pick what's relevant to that consumer, and also do that at a segment level within that? So something I touched on earlier but didn't really explicitly say is part of our journey in this area was partnering with Constructor about 18 months ago now, when we first went live. And prior to that, our previous approach was much more keyword based, and that's part of the reason why, as I said at the start, we were kind of hiding the search journey behind the rollout menu. Essentially, we didn't really believe that it was being effective, given the fact that so many terms are more generic, and actually a user wants to be inspired and wants to see the best possible product, which isn't necessarily led by what it is they've said. So no, I think that the overall feedback from my perspective, certainly that's very relatable, even for the very high intent consumer. I think, they're not robots talking in certain terms. They need to we need to use the data that we have got to be able to give them the most relevant results for them at all times.
Thank you. Harry, Rob, what about your experience with White Stuff?
Yeah, very similar. As we were saying at the start, we had a very manual sort of process in terms of our merchandising approach and how we would approach serving results for search results. And now we are very confident to just let sort of constructors clickstream data do the work. Where it works really effectively for us, as well as the search results page, is more around our browse pages. And it can be quite interesting just going into the attractiveness part, like Lara was mentioning, when you're in the office sometimes and you're seeing everyone across the site, on different pages, but in different categories, but seeing all different results that everyone's getting, even though they're all on the same, maybe like the dresses page. So it's interesting to see that in like a kind of live environment. We've A/B tested against it with like a manual merchandise list. And yeah, happily the clickstream data works, so it does take out that manual intervention. The only time we will take sort of action ourselves is if we've got like a new product where there isn't really that much data for Constructor to utilize, and that we want to give a real good boost to, or say if we're switching to a sale promotion period, and we've got big stock sale lines that we really want to give good visibility to, that maybe have been underperforming the last couple of weeks because we've been focusing on full price and we've had to pivot. But yeah, those are the only times we'll intervene. Normally we'll just let the clickstream data do its thing, and it does work very well.
Thank you, Rob. Rob, you mentioned the kind of on the browse pages, and I wanted to move on to beyond just search bar, kind of other elements of product discovery, and in particular, the official term being recommendation engines, or what we might be more used to as kind of personalized product recommendations. Lara, could you talk us through what is a recommendation engine and how that's kind of showing up on people's websites?
Yeah, absolutely. Recommendations is also based on the algorithm data that we have. And basically, it really is aggregating the data on, for example, people also clicked or people also buy. For us, in Constructor, there are different strategies that we can optimize for. So, for example, items that are added to a style or similar items, or people have also engaged with. And this is something that really our clients can place wherever they want on the site, so they render it on their end. But it really is another way of product discovery to actually show other products that are potentially not on the PLP page, or so the product listing page, or that's not coming up in search or browse, to really give another view on different products that are complementary based on the clickstream data that we have. Yeah.
And I've had a look at both brand websites, and there's lots of different ways you can do this. Some of the most popular are kind of full outfit suggestions, or people also bought, people also like, you might like. To the panel, what has worked for you, or maybe what hasn't worked for you, if you're willing to share? Have you got any tips or advice in terms of this kind of recommendation part of product discovery? Harry, do you want to start with that?
This is definitely an area that we've I I think we first put live recommendation engines about 2 years ago, I'd say, and there's a limit to the level of sort of testing and optimization we've done there. I think there's a belief that they are relevant. I think there's also a belief that for our sort of product range, it lends itself very well to recommendations, because if you're trying to style an aesthetic or a look, we know, and we have data of what looks well together, and people tend to buy together. Equally, we have other ranges within our products assortment, which are perhaps sets of like green onyx earrings, green onyx necklace, pendant, etc. So things tend to go well together. So I think we've always believed there's scope to do more inspiration around recommendations. I think there's the other side of recommendations, more of a data driven, of just knowing what people tend to add to bag if they've added to bag X or Y. So yeah, we've definitely believed in the concepts. Our journey, like I say, has probably been slow because we put them live, and because of other focuses and priorities, we've kind of not really given them the time and attention to really optimize and make the most of them. We have A/B tested them in that 2-year journey, and I think the results were quite interesting because we didn't see a huge incremental performance. It wasn't like it was driving additional sales we weren't capturing anyway. But what we did see is huge levels of uptake and engagement. So, for example, on our basket rollout, we have a recommendation engine there. It's been used a lot by users to add to bag, to find new products. Equally, on our product display detail pages, we have a rec engine there, again, heavy engagement. So we haven't quite cracked it. We don't know what the right use of that real estate is, but what we do know is that there's high appetite amongst our customers to use that kind of feature to discover products as part of their journey. And we are planning to do a bit more testing this summer around the actual logic that's sitting behind each rec engine, and whether it's bought this, bought that, or about certain product styling, curation edits. We don't know what's going to be the right approach. So yeah, more to come in that space for sure.
Super interesting. Thank you, Harry. Rob, same question to you. I wonder if obviously White Stuff is a full lifestyle brand. You can wear White Stuff head to toe almost. So does that kind of recommendation side of it work well on your side?
Yeah, it does work really well. We get good engagement for both of the sections. So where we really see the engagement, and similar to what Harry said, is on the product detail pages. So we have 2 recommendation spots. We have people also brought, and we have you may also like. The people also brought section is where we'll use the complementary recommendation strategy, which will be common items that people purchase alongside that main item they're looking at. And then you may also buy is like the best selling line. So alternative strategy that will apply there. Previously, we used to manually slot items based on what the model was wearing. But by switching it fully to just an algorithm-led recommendation, we did see a higher click-through rate and a higher add to cart. And that also reduced the manual time, having to find the product, keeping up the stock, keeping up with whether it was in stock, switching it out, that kind of thing. So that was a big win for us. And the other way that we really sort of leverage them is if we need to get another particular category moving a little bit more. So, for example, say accessories may be underperforming or footwear is underperforming. What we can do is go into the recommendation engine and dial up the visibility across all those product pages. And so suddenly you'll see sort of 10% of clicks going to accessories. So the next day you get sort of 15-16% are going, and a lot of that will be driven from those recommendations. So yeah, that's a good use case for us that we find works well.
Great advice. Thank you, Rob. Laura, what are you seeing any other brands or retailers do? Any advice on what's working or what to try? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give a shout out to Rob and to Harry, because I know from experience working with a lot of brands, it is very hard to go from a traditional model over to, let's say, a more advanced model, whatever you want to call it, and really step away from manually doing things and letting the algorithm take over. And I think that's the one key takeaway that I would just love to bring to the audience today as well. I mean, you heard Rob and Harry saying that it works, and I know that it might be a big step and it might feel a little bit uncertain. There are definitely ways to reassure you that it works. By A/B testing, by splitting traffic. There are many different ways, but I think the one thing that broadly my clients so far have feedbacked is, oh wow, actually when we step back and we let the algorithm take over, we have time to focus on other bits and bobs, but also it works. We see better results. I think, and this is also something that Harry mentioned, there's not really a right or wrong, very right or wrong, with recommendations on site. I think usually my clients have really good understanding of where something works. It's just the product that are shown could be enhanced, obviously, with the algorithm and with the recommendation engine. But usually there's a really good understanding from past data as well, like where are recommendations engaged with, what works, like where's something added to cart, where's like a additional product discovery. So I think there is a lot of knowledge within the brand already that we can leverage and enhance. And I think if the brands are willing to take the leap almost, there's certainly something we can do. So I say it's just not even trial and error, it's just trial and win, really.
Great
Can
advice.
I add to that? That point you made then, Laura, particularly at the start around that the challenges brands face at changing approach, I think it's so true, and we can definitely relate to that. Definitely from like the transition to like an algorithmic AI based approach versus more like manual intervention, manually trading a site. And I think we even now we're still trying to find the right balance of what's the right way of operating that going forwards. Rob kind of mentioned on that with like new product launches as well. I think the first, we've been with you guys for 18 months now. I think the first 12 months, there were huge challenges along the way, not just from the fact what you mentioned there, but also things like any integration is painful as much as sales teams will tell you, or the documentation might say. So that was tricky to make sure we did the right discovery, get the right mapping of our product hierarchy to constructors, and then also at the same time adjust to that way of working change, which is really quite out of the box and very far left field and very different. And I think one of the things we noticed quite early on is our first launch of the platform actually was performing quite poorly, and then we realized it's because we were trusting the AI almost too much, and almost we were saying, "Oh, the AI must be right." It turns out we'd actually integrated it wrong, and we'd mapped the product hierarchy incorrectly. We had to redo the product catalog integration, and then the performance really started to rocket. So a huge learning from that was you don't just take something that's got an AI label on it and go, "Hey, no, it's gonna do everything for us, do the thinking, do the heavy lifting." Absolutely not. You still need to be so attentive, so on it to make sure you're integrating and using that capability correctly. So yeah, it was quite a journey those 12 months, but the results have been phenomenal since we started to crack some of those areas.
Yeah, I completely agree there, Harry. Like, just because it says AI, you can't just switch it on and leave it. Like, yeah, we'll weekly track performance, see if there's been an increase or a decrease week on week on add to cart, click-through rate, even views, that kind of thing. So yeah, you've got to still keep a very close eye on it and be attentive to it, and also just constantly look at how you can be optimizing it more. Just because it's AI driven, you can still tweak with rules and things like that just to make it better and measure that success. So yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think it is so important to, as you all said, like learn to utilize it and trust your gut, almost trust your experience with your site, with your customers. And I think one approach fits all is not really a solution, because each e-commerce differs, the spending limits differ, the customers differ, but in the end, I think it's really learning to leverage the data that you have and work with it. And I think from my perspective with my clients, we have always achieved the best results when we were in constant communication and we said, okay, good, you want to achieve X, Y, and Z, and this is your knowledge, this is how the algorithm can help, and then really put both together. So yeah, and then I think really great results can be seen and can be achieved. Yeah.
To our audience watching, by the way, do remember to send in any questions you have for the panel around search or product discovery, and we'll be answering them towards the end. Moving on again slightly, a topic I wanted to talk about, which often gets brought up when talking about AI, is chatbots, which traditionally not traditionally, but recently, when they've been run by AI, are very sort of customer service led. I actually had an interaction with one this morning, and it was very good. But what's the return policy? Where's my refund? How long is this going to take? That kind of thing. But what I found really interesting in this sort of product discovery space is brands and retailers that are using that chat function led by AI to bring in this product discovery. So you've returned this, but you might like this, as an example. And there's almost this idea of them becoming like a virtual shop assistant or styling assistant. I think could be a really interesting way to go. I know, Harry, Monica Vinader has a virtual assistant called Carla. Could you tell us more about that, and if how you see maybe product discovery kind of integrating within that chat function?
Well, first and foremost, Carla is actually a real person. She's our superstar who leads the customer care team and a bit of a pro at all things CX. But yes, we have also named our chatbot after her, Carla. So there's two Carlas. Our chatbot has been a huge success for us. Our customer care team is UK based. They don't work global hours. We have a global business. We have the usual customer queries, particularly post-purchase, as you say. A lot of traditional use cases of chatbots sit in that world. And we've seen great success at managing those post-purchase experiences, such as where's my order, the basics, and getting a quick answer to those, and trying to automate where possible and divert customers to the order tracking pages. And I think doing that in a Gen AI-led approach has helped increase the number of conversations that can go via those routes, because it can contextualize and understand the query that may not necessarily have picked up the automated go to the order status page in the past. We've also done things like returns automation in the past, which are less about AI. Again, as long as you can get the customer into that flow, which AI helps, there's an automated flow of customer control. So that's about giving customers on our global customer base the chance to be able to do things instantly at their own time when we may be offline in the UK. Your question on product discovery, I think that's a really interesting one. We're definitely keen to move use of that chatbot further up the funnel along that purchase journey. We haven't really done too much in that area just yet. The main thing I can think of is back around November time last year, we did a series of experiments which tried to prompt engagement with the chatbot during a discovery journey. So, for example, we're putting a few questions up to the consumer to kind of prompt them to then engage and start a conversation. We did A/B test that. It was quite low volumes. There wasn't really much we could learn at that point, but there was some level of engagement of people who are, say, on a PDP, and there'll be a question that comes up saying, what is Vermeil? It's an important concept to understand with our products. And then it would trigger a conversation, but it wouldn't really lead anywhere. I think that gave us enough confidence, though, to want to continue to explore this area. I think we will come back to it in due course. So, Constructor now have a new AI shopping assistant, which we've seen a few demos of, and looks like, whilst in its early days, looks like it's going to be a really strong product. So we're keen to give it a test and ultimately try and integrate that chat experience into things like product recommendation engines as well into the future. So yeah, there's definitely a future path there. Whether it will work, whether it will be incremental, whether it will actually delight customers and help them as opposed to just cause frustration, well, time will tell, and the results will be in the data.
Definitely, as they always are. Thank you, Harry. Laura, I know you do work with some businesses who are kind of a few more steps ahead in kind of turning what often people see as customer service chatbot into more of a assistant, styling assistant, shopping assistant. Could you give us any examples or tell us, anything that you're seeing out there that's working in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just provides another level of understanding with what customers want and what they are engaging with. So one of the main things that I can see with my clients who are using it already is real-time in-session context almost. So to really understand what they are engaging with, what they're looking for, making sure to personalize the experience. So a chat box can really yeah, or is really for the customers that are using it, personalizing the experience and shaping it based on what we've mentioned before in this webinar already. So the resonance so far is really positive. I would say it is important that clients who are implementing it trust the process as well and trust the AI behind it and the technology. But yeah, so far the feedback is really positive, and I think it really helps, or the feedback that I've gotten so far is it really helps to navigate people through a website that are staying away from, for example, something like quizzes or like other ways to navigate people to where they want to go. The chat box is there and it's a lot easier and straightforward to use. Yeah.
I saw a really interesting example where I can't remember who it was, but you would search something and then the chat would come up and say, "Would you like me to suggest some other options?" Which I thought was a really nice sort of way of initiating that conversation without them having to, because not everybody, including myself, wants to go into that chatbot function because they know it can be quite frustrating sometimes. So I thought that was a nice integration that was sort of like, you've already searched, would you like me to show you some more? And that virtual styling assistant element kind of came to life, which I really enjoyed. We are running out of time, so I wanted something else I was really interested to talk about in the sort of AI and product discovery search space is visual search. And for those that don't know, an example, you go onto the ASOS website and you click search, and there's a camera button now, and you click the camera button and you can literally take a photograph of somebody's dress, and then it will search for dresses similar, or you can upload a picture from social media or wherever you've seen it, and it will use the image to search for relevant, attractive products, which is very interesting, I thought. And it's been around for a couple of years, but we at Drapers actually recently did a little bit of research around this. We did a survey of 2,000 consumers, and it's not a huge amount, but 19% of respondents said that they would say they use visual search tools often, which is a very good indicator. And as you'd imagine, in 18 to 24-year-olds, that went up to 30%. So I think visual search is something to look at. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Laura, do you have any opinions on that?
Yes, absolutely. It's something that we are discovering internally as well. It's something that is requested by clients already. It's something that we're working on. From a professional point of view, it's definitely something that will be coming in the future, and that is becoming more widespread and really, I think in combination with all the other great AI tools that we've spoken about today, it can become really powerful. So for example, if I'm looking for a ring from Monica Vinader that I saw online, or a dress from White Stuff, or a bag or shoes or whatever, and I look for that image, and then other recommendations might come up, or other things that I might like based on the recommendation engine or the personalization, is becoming very relevant. From a personal point of view, to share my experience, that image search has saved me a couple of times already, and me personally, I love it, but that's just a very personal view. But yeah, it will definitely become more relevant. Yeah.
I also just remembered an example. A retailer told me that they are seeing a lot of people doing that in store. So they're photographing the product that they're looking at in store because they want to find out more about it online, which I thought was quite interesting. Rob or Harry, do you have any views on visual search that you'd like to share? Rob?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I agree with Laura. Like, I've used it a few times myself. I do think it's great. I think probably for our brand and our consumers, it's probably something that we would look to explore a little bit further down the line when other retailers have started to adopt it, and it's a little bit more of a familiar sort of standard usage. But yeah, I can see it becoming more and more popular, and yeah, definitely more of a way people will use to search items or discover items that way. It's a lot easier, isn't it, than typing just snap and send. Yeah.
I think as well, what I think is really interesting about it is color and shape and design, style, whatever. It's very subjective. So what my website might think is a long flowing dress, the consumer might not think is. So that visual connection, I think, could be really powerful. Harry, I'm interested to know your thoughts on that.
The experience you just described there of taking a picture, an image, I can definitely see applications to our brand, but I don't think they're necessarily be top of the list. I think in this visual area, there's probably other things we want to explore first. I think, for example, right now, the really obvious one is our current search experience is almost purely text-based, because you type in a keyword, you see a list of other keywords or suggested terms, you click, and then you see results. Whereas actually that whole UI should probably be more visual. People, you've just mentioned it, people like to see images, particularly when it's something that's, it's a sentimental purchase, it's an emotional purchase, it's a piece of jewelry, a piece of clothing. So I think we need our actual core search experience to be more visual anyway, which we're looking to address and test in that area. I think then the other area that kind of springs to mind as hearing you talk is actually not necessarily just the user taking an image to drive the search term, but actually, we could use a Gen AI to look at all of our imagery to help come up with new keywords. So still live within a text-based search space, but have a better, richer, structured data that links our product catalog to these terms. You just mentioned a few words there, Graham. It could be about like long flowing dress, could be about bold jewelry, could be about like very subjective terms. There is still a degree of subjectivity. Could you help surface better, more relevant results through using like a Gen AI type tool to be able to come up with more product attributes and keywords to go with our products?
Definitely. I think as well, in that space, there's particularly on TikTok, there's all these trends and these new words, and I can't even think of a new one, but like cottagecore and mob wife, and maybe you at your business hasn't kind of started tagging things to that, but maybe, as you say, the AI can sort of say your products are really relevant for what these people are searching, but you haven't connected them yet, so I'm going to do it for you. That could be really interesting as well. We're running out of time, so I'm going to go to some audience questions and some quick fire questions as well, just to kind of round us off. With this new approach to search and product discovery that we've been talking about, what is a good search now? How do you measure what is a good search? What's a successful search? Maybe obviously someone purchasing something, I'm guessing, but has this shift to attractiveness from relevance changed your approach to what is a successful search, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'm going to pick on you if you're not going to nominate yourself. Harry, do you want to take that one?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I had to volunteer. So it's a bit being quick in this area. I think I don't think the approach to measuring has necessarily changed. I think you want it to be fast, quick. Rob mentioned about a headless integration to be really punchy. You don't be waiting for results. I think that first and foremost. I think you want to minimize search results. There's nothing worse than searching and not getting an answer. And I think beyond that, it's your classic funnel. Who's dwelling and engaging with the page, who's then clicking on the page, who's then actually adding to bag, who's then getting to checkout. I think keep an eye on that. All those sort of 4 or 5 things, I think, probably the recipe to a good, healthy search.
Very nice. Rob?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll obviously ultimately want them to go on to purchase something, but we'll also measure things like, the exit rate, the bounce rate, the number of pages that they then went on to browse afterwards. That's how a successful search looks to us. It's those micro conversions, those metrics, those positive metrics that we see is a successful search. If they're below average, then we need to do something.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I think combining both of these answers and comment on both of them. From my perspective, not working for a brand, but obviously working for the search platform and for Constructor, what a successful search looks like for my clients always depends on what they're optimizing for. So traditionally, and sorry, this is going to become a slightly long answer, but traditionally it was optimized, I don't know, let's say for conversion rate. But with Constructor, with us, you can actually really say we want to optimize for conversion rate. We want to optimize for add to cart. We want to optimize for conversion per visitor, whatever you want. So for me, I've seen them all. So whatever the KPI is that the business is optimizing for, or the journey that they want to go ahead, if that number is increasing, then yeah, absolutely, that's a successful search. And so far, it's always worked.
We've talked a lot about different uses for AI within this space, but I quite like to ask brands and retailers, regardless of the challenges that we've discussed, regardless of the time of integration and some of the headaches people experience with these things, if you had any budget, what is the one investment you would make in the digital space to stay ahead in the next 12 months? Rob, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, I think we've implemented a lot of new tools over the past sort of 12 months that is helping us stay competitive. But I suppose one area I think we could probably expand on, and one brand that springs to mind that does it really well is Nike, is just those real different styling recommendations. That I know we sort of mentioned recommendations and the algorithm just suggesting what you could buy with, but those actual looks that people are putting together, I do think works really well. And I think, yeah, that would be something that we could look to invest in, just off the top of my head.
Thank you. Harry, what about you?
It's a really, really tough question. I think all consumers generally at the minute are very discount sensitive. I think there's enough in the news to know what the reasons behind that. I think, but as a brand, you can't be a brand, particularly a luxury brand, where you are continuously going from one discount promotion to the next. So I think, how can we become more savvy when it comes to finding what's the right discount for the right customer level, for the right product range, in a manner that kind of protects the brand. A toolkit to really experiment around promotions, I think, would be useful capability for us to be able to test and learn. Obviously, incorporating AI into that in terms of customer segmentation, how you actually operate, and be savvy about which promotions go where. Whether that's about buying something off the shelf and bringing in capability, or it's about building and finding our existing capability, don't know. But I think there's definitely an opportunity around that to both engage customers, get them shopping, but also do that in a margin optimized world, so we're not just unnecessarily giving away discounts all the time.
Definitely very interesting. And what I'm going to hand over to you to kind of sum up and round us off. Is there anything you'd like to say to kind of sum up everything we've covered this afternoon?
Did you say Lara or Rob? Apologies.
Yes, sorry.
Lara. Okay. Oh, amazing. No, thank you so much. I think if you do have money right now, any sum, and you do want to invest in a good thing, invest in a good search discovery platform, obviously. No, but I think use AI. Don't be afraid to take a step ahead. If you do have any questions, look for a good partner, a good technology partner that's there to support you, that has the resources to support you, that has people like me to really engage between the customer and the technology. I would say, yeah, take the leap, because it will definitely pay off, literally. And I think shout out to the people and to the brands who've already been doing it. And yeah, I'm looking very forward to hopefully work with more brands. But yeah, I had the pleasure to already work with Rob and White Stuff. I had the pleasure to actually work with Monica Vinader for a short amount of time as well. And I would say, yeah, absolutely. Attractiveness over relevance has proven itself, and we're here to support if you want to give it a try.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for in this lunchtime session. So thank you so much to our partner, Constructor. Thank you to our panel, Harry, Rob, and Laura. And thank you to our audience for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.